Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as the words fell, he killed the man without any hesitation. I have to say that Crocodile's appearance was quite domineering and cool. Das Bonus winked at Gem, Machida and his party, then jumped up and came to the Straw Hat pirate ship. He faced the Straw Hat pirates. Obviously, they were not going to leave any survivors. The Straw Hat pirates naturally knew that these people were not friendly. In an instant, the two groups became tense. At this time, Mach stared at Crocodile. I didn't expect you to come too. Crocodile, a natural ability user similar to the Flash Fruit, is worth my personal trip. Mach was really flattered. If he remembered correctly, Das Bonus was the only one in the entire Baroque works who was invited by him personally, but now the situation is in big trouble. However, he would never back down, pointing at the vulture. So, if I don't agree to join the Baroque works, will I end up like that guy today? Crocodile's mouth corners slightly raised. This is why I like to talk to smart people, without too much nonsense. So, what is your choice? Mach heard this and turned into a beam of light and left the scene. He didn't run away, but hit Huaizhou and the package containing 2 devil fruits and a group of jewels. After all, he is facing Crocodile now. With these, he can't fight with all his strength. Then he turned into a beam of light and returned to the original place, facing Crocodile head-on. Watching Mach go back and forth, Crocodile looked thoughtfully at the direction where Mach had just gone. Crocodile said meaningfully, "It seems that there is something you value very much in your package. Is it the devil fruit you snatched from Colonel Dong Hai Wild Dog?" It must be said that Crocodile is really a meticulous person, and he guessed it at once. Crescent-shaped sand dunes. But as soon as he finished speaking, he launched an attack. Crocodile enlarged his arm and turned it into a crescent-shaped sand blade to slash Mach. Mach's pupils shrank slightly. Crocodile's crescent-shaped sand dunes were quite terrifying. Because once you are slashed by the sand blade, all the water will be sucked out, and you will eventually fall down and become a mummy without water. Only Luffy, who is the protagonist, did not die after being sucked dry. If it were anyone else, after being sucked dry, they would definitely die. How could they be resurrected? Water is the source of life, it's not just talk. No matter who you are, you can't live without water, but this move didn't work on him. Naturally, as long as it's not seastone and armed color, all attacks can't cause harm to him. Sure enough, the sand knife directly cut Mach in two. But, so what, didn't it recover immediately? Crocodile also passed by Mach, and at this moment, the corner of Crocodile's mouth slightly raised, but this time, the smile was a bit ferocious. The golden hook in his right hand stabbed towards Mach's back shoulder. Ding! At this moment, Mach, who had been motionless and allowed the attack to hit him, instantly unsheathed the Sandai Kitetsu in his hand and swung it back. He blocked the attack. Then the two of them took a few steps back. But their expressions were different. Mach stared at Crocodile's golden hook with his eyes, because at this time, it was wrapped with armament hockey. The novel was taken from the Raleigh website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Fuck, Mach was shocked, but he thought it was natural. Who is Crocodile? He was the guy who dared to attack Whitebeard, and finally he was able to start the Cross Guild with Hawkeye. How could he not even know armament hockey? If he really didn't know, it would be too unreasonable. Crocodile looked at Mach with more appreciation. He had just used the sand knife to paralyze Mach, making Mach think that he, like Das Bonus, could not cause effective damage to natural ability users. Unexpectedly, this kid counterattacked during the second attack. This shows that everything was within the kid's expectations, but he himself seemed a little embarrassed. It seems that you also know the existence of armed color, then you should also understand. At this moment, only I can cause harm to you, and you can't do anything to me. So, do you still insist on doing it? After saying this, the momentum on his body suddenly changed. With a bit of murderous intent, he said, "Just a reminder, my patience is not very good. I won't always give you opportunities. Maybe the next time I attack, it will be your death." Mach couldn't help but laugh out loud. If it were a natural type, it would really be like this. But you crocodile, then not necessarily. Because he has not awakened the armament haki, if it were any other nature, he would be really powerless. What do you mean? Crocodile raised his eyebrows, but his heart could not help but tighten, because he is a natural system, sand fruit ability, he naturally understands. His fruit ability is different from other natures. There is a huge flaw, but Mach asked meaningfully, Crocodile, do you usually take a bath? Have you ever experienced the feeling of surfing? Crocodile's face darkened, because the meaning revealed in Mach's words was already obvious. At this time, Crocodile looked at Mach with a different look. If before, there was still the intention of winning him over, then now he really had the intention to kill. Because he did not allow his flaws to be known by others. You want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. Crocodile's lower body turned into sand and flew towards Mach at an extremely fast speed. In a blink of an eye, he was in front of Mach, and the golden hook wrapped with armed color stabbed at Mach without hesitation. Mach was prepared, and he squatted and successfully avoided the attack. At the same time, his hand had touched the ground. His body also changed in an instant. The next moment, the ground surged and finally turned into a huge fist. It punched Crocodile. This sudden attack really caught Crocodile off guard. However, Crocodile quickly counterattacked. He swung out the golden hook to meet it. Obviously he wanted to have a head-on confrontation, but he never expected that. When his golden hook and the fist that surged out of the ground collided fiercely, the golden hook seemed to hit a quagmire and sank directly into it. Then his arms were mired in the mud fist. Not good. Crocodile's face changed drastically. He stopped attacking, and decisively transformed into an element, but Mach couldn't hold back the smile, because this was just the beginning. The fun was still to come. As expected, Crocodile's face changed again. There was even a bit of horror in his eyes. Because he found that the arm trapped in the mud fist couldn't be transformed into an element, he couldn't help but exclaimed, how is it possible? Chapter 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's even more terrifying is that this huge mud fist seems to have turned into a bottomless black hole, constantly devouring everything around it. Desert Great Sword. Crocodile no longer dared to underestimate Mach at this time. He turned his arm into a sand blade and rushed from the ground to the place where the mud fist connected to the ground. Obviously, he wanted to cut off the entire mud fist, so that Mach would lose control of the mud fist, so that he could escape. Swish. This move is definitely one of Crocodile's strongest attacks. Not only is it extremely fast, but it is also extremely powerful. It directly achieved its goal and the entire mud fist was disconnected from the ground. Boom. But at this moment, the mud fist actually exploded directly. Then the mud splashed, and the first to bear the brunt was naturally Crocodile, who was closest. In an instant, he was covered by mud. Now, one sword style, Shura slash. This is the moment Mach was waiting for. In an instant, the ghost energy of him and the third-generation Kitetsu in his hand burst out directly, and turned into a Shura holding a ghost blade behind Mach. Swish, this sword. It directly cut Crocodile's abdomen covered with mud. Puff, blood spurted out from under the mud. How is it possible? Crocodile exclaimed. At the same time, he shook off the mud on his body, and then he found the key. The place where the mud fell off was wet. Crocodile's pupils shrank suddenly. When he looked at Mach again, his eyes changed again. Sure enough, this guy has already known his flaws. We must not let him. At this time, Crocodile's murderous intention towards Mach was even stronger. Mach laughed. As long as there are green plants on the ground, there must be water sources underground. Where there is water, the soil is wet, and he can create and control the soil he touches. So for him, to deal with Crocodile, all he needs is the moist soil deep underground. Of course, in order to make Crocodile fall into the trap, he used dry soil to cover the moist soil, so that Crocodile would be careless and fall into the trap he set. Crocodile's arm trapped in the mud fist could not be elementalized, because the water in the mud wet his body. Infinite swamp. When Crocodile was ready to kill, Mach could not miss such a good opportunity. He directly used his ultimate move, and under the effect of his ability, the ground turned into a swamp, directly causing Crocodile's feet to sink into it. Crocodile's face changed again. The surface is cracked. Crocodile did not dare to be careless, and directly touched the ground that had turned into a swamp with his right hand. The water in the swamp was directly sucked dry. This move is Crocodile's signature move. It is also his move to create a desert, which can make the entire earth dry and crack, and make the buildings and trees on the ground absorb water, crack and turn into a desert. When Crocodile looked up, his face changed. Because there was no Mach in front of him, at the same time, the whole port trembled violently. Then, he saw the water in the sea rising. Not good. Although Crocodile didn't know what would happen next, he knew it was definitely not a good thing. Decisive retreat. Boom. Facts proved that he was right, because the next second more than 10 huge mud hands appeared in the sea. Each mud hand was 20 meters long, and each hand had a large piece of sea water, splashing at him. The sea water brought out by more than 10 giant hands, like a huge wave, went towards Crocodile. Crocodile's eyes were about to pop out. He had never seen a devil fruit ability user use this attack method. Mach, who had already run to a high place far away, laughed strangely at this time. The devil fruit ability itself is despised by the sea, but as long as the body is not covered by sea water on a large area, then the ability can be used. Moreover, it doesn't matter if the ability you use touches the sea water. You can even use your ability to create sea waves like Big Mom did, so it's not surprising that Mach can do what he is doing now. At this time, Crocodile has no way out. He can fly. However, as a natural ability user, he must be an element before he can fly. However, at this time, most of his body is wet, and he can't be an element at all. Naturally, he can't fly. Crocodile's face sank. Desert sword. Crocodile turned his arm into a sand blade and released it in a huge size. It has the sharpness to cut the ground and even the desert. And this time, his target is the sea water coming towards him. At this moment, he has only one way, which is to cut the sea in front of him. The water is cut open. This allowed the seawater to pass by both sides of him, and only in this way could he have a chance of survival. Brush. The sand knife shot out and headed directly towards the waves. At the same time, those dozen huge clay hands seemed to have lost control and suddenly fell into the sea. That huge volume caused a large amount of sea water to surge out of the sea surface again. Another wave of waves formed, sweeping towards Crocodile. Therefore, although the first wave was successfully broken by Crocodile's sand knife, but he had to face this second wave. Crocodile's face became extremely ugly, but he had no choice but to use the sand knife again. Trying to cut through this second wave, however, Mudhand's loss of control also indicates that Mach has transformed his abilities. It turned into a flash of ability and flew high into the sky. His index finger was pointed at Crocodile, who was concentrating on dealing with the waves. Laser light. A beam of light burst out. Rumble. The laser beam directly hit Crocodile, and a violent explosion occurred. Immediately afterwards, Crocodile was seen being swallowed directly by the second wave of waves that followed. When everything returned to calm, Crocodile was no longer around. Mach fell from the sky and stood there for a long time, muttering, "Is Crocodile dead? Was the majestic Shichibukai killed by him like this?" Even Mach himself was a little unbelievable. Das Bones on the melee couldn't help but widen his eyes. You know, in his heart, Crocodile is synonymous with the strong. It is precisely because of this that when Crocodile invited him in person, he would agree without hesitation. But now, asshole, Das Bones couldn't help but curse. He and Sauron were fighting fiercely, but he suddenly lost the will to fight, because the battle at this time has lost its meaning. How is that possible? At this time, a woman wearing a cowboy hat stood in a corner in the distance, her eyes full of horror. She also couldn't believe that Crocodile, a Shichibukai, died at the hands of a newcomer. Chapter 23. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords. Like the man who was like her nightmare, they were all natural ability users. Such people, in his eyes, have always been invincible. Robin looked at Mach in the distance with his eyes flashing. Robin's life experience was sympathetic. When she was very young, all her tribesmen were slaughtered, leaving Robin alone to live in this world. Her childhood was still in pain. Not only was she called the son of the devil wherever she went, she was also wanted by the Navy and had a bounty of tens of millions of Baileys. so she would be hunted down wherever she went. She was also constantly looking for a backer to serve as a temporary shelter. At the same time, she was constantly betrayed. This made her now trust no one. She and Crocodile were just using each other. She needed Crocodile's protection, and she also wanted to find the historical texts of the Kingdom of Alabasta, and Crocodile needed Robin's ability to read ancient texts to find Hades. Now Crocodile is dead, and her compensation is gone. So, I need a shelter urgently, stronger than Crocodile. Is there anyone suitable for him? A newcomer who has just gone to sea is in urgent need of all kinds of intelligence and a strong and useful partner. Is there anyone more suitable than her? Robin's mouth corners can't help but rise slightly, because she has a good idea at this time. Mok, who has successfully solved Crocodile, has gone in the direction of hiding things before. When he came to the place where he hid things, he saw a beautiful woman sitting on the side, looking at him playfully, as if waiting for him to come here. Mok's pupils shrank suddenly, because he recognized this woman at a glance. This is the love of all sea fans, Robin. At this time, she has wheat-colored skin and long straight black hair. Wearing a white cowboy hat and a matching white women's windbreaker, in the middle is a purple belly-exposing short jacket, which is still open in the middle and connected with shoelaces. The career line directly became a highlight. The lower body is a short purple skirt, which perfectly outlines her straight and long legs. It must be said that this woman is not as charming as she will be in a few years, but she is also very capable. But then again, how did she know that he hid the things here? So, she has been on this island for a long time, just observing the situation in secret, and she chose to appear here again. Mok's pupils shrank slightly, because he had a guess in his mind. Nico Robin. I don't know, what is your purpose in coming here? Robin saw that Mok directly revealed her identity, and her face changed slightly, but immediately returned to normal. Then, the corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a charming smile. I'm here to cooperate with you. Cooperation. This was something Mok didn't expect. He thought he would get on Luffy's ship directly like in the original work. Nico Robin, I have all the intelligence networks and agents of Baroque works under Crocodile. Of course, in addition to Daz Bonus and the ones who appeared today. After all, they already know that M.0 is Crocodile, but I am sure I can convince them to continue working for Baroque works. Oh, Mok's eyes lit up. He never expected it. Robin would do this. This is completely different from the original work. When she joined the Straw Hat Pirates, although there are only 3 people who can show off under Crocodile, namely Mr. R1, Mr. R2, and Mr. R3, however, the entire Baroque works has a large number of intelligence personnel. They are not good at fighting, but they are still good at intelligence in the first half of the Grand Line. It is a good thing to have a huge intelligence organization in hand. Mok's eyes changed when he looked at Robin. What do I have to pay? Robin was silent for a moment, and then said bluntly, when I need it, you have to protect me. Mok smiled. Are you referring to the Navy? Robin's pupils shrank, because she suddenly felt that the guy in front of her knew her very well. At this time, she was a little hesitant, but Mok immediately said meaningfully, as long as you sincerely join my army and have no other cautious thoughts in your heart. Then, you are my partner, even if the Navy general comes. I will protect you. I will never break my promise. Robin was shocked and looked at Mok in shock. At this moment, she completely understood in her heart. The man in front of her knew her past very well, but even so, he was willing to accept her. This made her feel a little. She had encountered this before, and they often said something, but then turned around and sold her out. But looking at Moxian with a sincere face, she felt a little relieved. Mok had already walked to the place where the things were hidden and took the things in his hand. He chuckled to Robin, Crocodile can protect you, do you think I am not as good as him? Even if you take a step back, you brought me the intelligence network that Crocodile worked hard to build. It is worth my protection. Robin listened to Mok's words. Thinking about it carefully, it was really. She felt a little relieved. Mok examined Robin, and after a moment of silence, why not do this? You let M.R1, M.R2, and M.R3 go to Aska Island to seize the Holy Sword on this island. After success, send it to Cook Island, and you, help me find Van Oka and Giza's bias. These two people, one is a sniper and the other is a boxing champion. Robin's expression froze. She understood, this is a test. It was a test for her, Mr. R1, Mr. R2, Mr. R3, and even more so for Baroque Works. Robin nodded, and then smiled. From now on, you are Mr. Zero of Baroque Works, and your words are the highest instructions of Baroque Works. And Mach changed the subject. Can you really convince Das Bonus? To be honest, Das Bonus is still very important to him. If this guy's ability is developed to awaken, it will be absolutely terrifying. And he has such potential. Robin nodded. Of course. Mach nodded with satisfaction. Very good, then I look forward to meeting you on Cook Island. At the Navy headquarters, Sengoku's face couldn't be any darker, because he had already received the information that Mach killed Crocodile. Vice Admiral Tsuru said, now that he has killed Crocodile, his strength has been proven to the world. I suggest that Smoker and Tashiji go and invite him to join the 7 warlords of the sea. After that, he added, we must do it before he clashes with the Navy again. Chapter 24. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cook Island. After Mach arrived on the island, his eyes lit up. Now he finally knew why this place was called Cook Island. Because it was really full of cooks. Intellectual queens, sexy queens, and the kind of queens who looked bad at first glance, Lolita, all kinds of Lolita. Cute, world-weary, and all kinds of charming young women and girls. Oh my, even if he had seen the information explosion, he was dumbfounded at this moment. Gulp, Mach couldn't help swallowing his saliva. This was definitely a country of women that was not a country of women. It was simply a holy place and a Jedi for men. Because every man wanted to come to such a place, but the first man didn't live long. Don't ask why. Wow, that one is really big. Big pineapple, the real big pineapple, that one, the waist is really thin. If she twisted on her body, she would be as happy as a fairy. This. Turtle. This butt is really perky. What is a peach butt? This is it. If he pressed her on the table, with his current strength, if he really wanted to, it would not be a problem to include all the cooks on the entire Cook Island into his harem. Without facts, it is called fantasy, and with strength, it is called facing temptation directly. At this time, he finally understood King Zhou. Wine pool and meat forest, isn't that natural? Huff, ha, ha. Mo Ku took a few deep breaths and tried to calm himself down. At the same time, he kept repeating in his heart, women will only affect the speed of drawing the sword, be calm. Then he asked a cook, excuse me, do you know Ada? Ada? The cook was stunned at first, and then immediately looked at Mo Ku, with a little vigilance. What do you want to see Ada? Mo Ku, I am from Luaga town in the East Sea, entrusted by her brother-in-law. If you pass by Cook Island, come and see her. After all, she has not contacted them for many years. The cook was slightly stunned, and then her face darkened. Ada is one of the 3 guardians of their Cook Island. She has paid a lot for Cook Island and for these cooks, that's why, alas. She couldn't help but sigh. Then she said, wait a minute, I'll ask Ada if she's willing to see you. Mach, thank you. At the same time, he muttered in his heart that Ada is very well known on this island. Moreover, it seems that she is very respected. Soon a tall woman wearing a veil walked towards him. Ada. Mach was a little confused, because there are very few women wearing veils in one piece. The visitor nodded. Are you the one entrusted by your brother-in-law? Mach nodded, and then waved the Sandai Kitetsu in his hand. Sandai Kitetsu, it was obtained from your brother-in-law. Ada's eyes changed, because Mach pointed out that her brother-in-law was the owner of a weapons store. This made her believe it a little more. However, she had experienced too much in these years. It was not easy for her to trust others, so she asked again, any other evidence? Mo Ku, your brother-in-law said that Shuizhou was the most suitable owner. But your sister did not agree with you leaving Rogue Town, so, at this point, Ada had completely believed it. Because only she, her sister and her brother-in-law knew about this, so, when she looked at Mo Ku, her eyes were much closer. It was like meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Ada, are your sister and brother-in-law all right? Mok nodded, except that your brother-in-law has lost some hair, everything else is fine. Puff, Ada couldn't help laughing. If you say this in front of my brother-in-law, he will definitely be angry with you. After that, he added, thank you so much for coming here. I have nothing to repay you. Why don't I cook a delicious meal for you to enjoy? Mok's eyes lit up, okay, but he also wanted to try the cooking skills of the cook on his future ship. Ada took Mok into a very luxurious restaurant. Mok, excuse me, you have been in touch since you went to sea. Why did you suddenly stop contacting? Ada's body froze when he heard this, because just at this moment, a plump woman came towards him. Ada, Sister Hella, this matter is not your fault, then blame those hateful slave-hunting teams. Mok is not stupid, how can he not understand after hearing this? This is a place full of beautiful young ladies, and all of them are in uniform. If there are no strong men who can control the situation, these beauties can't be protected at all. After all, in the world of pirates, beautiful women are also a kind of wealth, let alone pirates, just those who specialize in catching beautiful women all over the world, sending them to auction houses, to nobles, and even to the slave-hunting teams of the celestial dragons. It's enough for them to drink a pot. After all, these beauties can be exchanged for a large amount of Bailey. It's faster than robbery. Listening to the conversation between the two and the veil covered by Ada, it can be guessed. It should be in a certain battle that the cook named Hella was injured, and the face was injured. For a woman, the face is almost equivalent to life. Although he sympathized with Ada's experience and appreciated Ada's behavior of keeping his partners. However, he was secretly happy in his heart. Because the injury on Ada's face made him more likely to successfully win Ada over, so, he said bluntly, are you willing to join my pirate group? If you are willing, I will avenge your former partners. And I will heal the injury on your face, how about it? Ada's face changed when he heard it. The look she gave Mok was different. So you are the same as those people, your real purpose is to pull me into your pirate group. Mok was very frank, I didn't mean that at first, but I learned about your strength along the way. I just learned about your character, plus I just happen to have the things and information you need most, so it's hard not to be tempted. Ada frowned and was about to speak. Hella was overjoyed and took the lead. Can you heal the wound on her face? You know, Ada's face was ruined because of her, but it has always been a knot in her heart. So, for her, there is nothing bigger than Ada's ability to restore her face. Mok thought about it, the slippery fruit has a beauty effect. Even the round face and freckles on the face can be changed, so what's the point of the wound? So he nodded, I dare not say that I am 100% sure, but I am still 80% to 90% sure. Obviously, he didn't say it to death. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry. Hella looked excited, okay. I agree on her behalf. Ada, Sister Hella, if those slave-hunting teams. Before Ada finished speaking, Hella interrupted her, don't worry, CG and I are here. After that, she added, besides, if you don't avenge your partner, you will leave sooner or later, right? Ada was shocked when she heard this. But when she thought of the cooks on the entire Cook Island, she hesitated again, but... Chapter 25. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mok shrugged, I'll stay here for a while. I'll take care of the slave-hunting team for you. You. Ada and Hella looked at Mok with a little doubt in their eyes, the only person in the world who has multiple fruit abilities, you really have the qualifications to say this. At this time, a tall woman from the long-handed clan came out from one side, but she looked at Mok with awe. Multiple fruit abilities? Can't a person only eat one devil fruit? Ada and Hella looked puzzled, and even wondered if they had heard it wrong. If the person who came was not their eldest sister Sis, they would have refuted it long ago, but the person who came said, and you defeated the 7 warlords crocodile not long ago. I think your new bounty will be issued all over the world in the next 2 days. What? Ada and Hella couldn't help but exclaimed at the same time, and when they looked at Mok again, their eyes became completely different. If Mok really has such strength, then those slave-hunting teams are nothing. Sissy rolled her eyes, and then she looked at Mok, because most of the people who come here have ulterior motives. So, I went to check the underground intelligence. Unexpectedly, I got such a big surprise. Then she added, as long as you can really heal Ada's injury, I will support her to join your pirate group. Ada, sissy, Ada, to tell you the truth, I have already got the person who harmed your companion from the underground forces. Hearing this, Ada widened his eyes and looked at Sissy in shock. At this time, Sis, I said with some apology, I shouldn't have kept this from you. It's just that I chose to remain silent before because that guy is far from being someone you can deal with. You are so straightforward, I'm afraid you will do something stupid regardless of everything. At this point, she looked at Mach again, but now, you have the capital to compete with that guy. Mach narrowed his eyes slightly. It must be said that the person who can defend this whole group of beautiful chefs is really not simple. He hit the point at once, however. Mach was prepared in his heart. Doflamingo, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, is Ada's enemy, because the chef pirate group that ambushed her was Gladius under Doflamingo's command. Ada's face changed drastically. Indeed, this guy is not someone she can compete with. She alone can't match him. Ada's facial changes were all seen by Mach. He immediately added, I can also say very frankly that even if Ada didn't join my pirate group, I would have faced Doflamingo sooner or later. So, you don't have to doubt that I deceived Ada in this regard. Then he took out a box from the package in his hand and handed it to Ada. This is my sincerity. Sis, Ada, and Hela looked at each other, and then Ada pulled the box over and opened it. He was stunned at first, and then he couldn't help but exclaimed, Devil Fruit. Mach, this is the parahuman slippery fruit. After eating it, you can make your skin all over your body smooth and tender, and even bounce off attacks. The most important thing is that it is a rare devil fruit that can make people reborn. To put it bluntly, no matter how ugly a person is, after eating it, they will become the world's top beauty or handsome man. There is such a devil fruit. Sis, Ada, and Hela couldn't help but widen their eyes full of disbelief. Ada took the devil fruit in her hand with trembling hands, then looked at Mach, and finally made up her mind. She brought the devil fruit to her mouth and bit it. Soon something magical happened. With full sincerity, Mach successfully recruited the cook Ada. Time passed in a blink of an eye, and half a month passed quickly. Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3 had already arrived at the Cook Island and secretly found Mach. Mr. 1 handed the holy sword to Mach with both hands. Mach looked at Mr. 1, then at Robin. I'm very curious, how did you convince him? Robin blinked and showed a charming smile. This is a secret. Mach also chuckled when he heard it, but did not ask any more questions. Instead, he took the holy sword and stretched his hand towards the sword body of the holy sword. Be careful, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3's faces changed drastically. These 3 guys have suffered from this holy sword. If they hadn't used the power of the orb to suppress it, they wouldn't even be able to bring it out. Ha ha ha. Mach couldn't help but laugh. It seems you have eaten it before, lost, but, for me, it is just a tonic. As he said, he touched the holy sword in the eyes of everyone. Boom, the strange power on the holy sword seemed to be stimulated by something and burst out immediately. Trying to rush into Mach's body, but the next second Mach absorbed this power and wanted to assimilate himself into the same strange power. However, the ghost energy belonging to the 3rd generation of Kitetsu in his body suddenly felt pressure. It didn't seem to want to be replaced and was resisting with all its strength, but for a while, no one could do anything to anyone. Seeing this scene, Mach showed a surprised expression. He didn't rush to intervene, and watched the 2 tigers fight. In the end, he found that the 2 powers had the tendency to merge. His eyes lit up, and then he immediately activated the fruit ability. Under the intervention of the devil fruit ability, the 2 powers actually merged. It has the domineering ghost energy and the weirdness of the holy sword. At the same time, Mach felt that he was the control of ability has reached a new level. The strange power on the holy sword and the ghost energy of the 3rd generation of Kitetsu were all absorbed into the body. This time it was no longer just absorbing a little bit and then transforming the body into the same substance. Instead, it was completely absorbed and used for its own benefit. the holy sword finally entered Mach's body as a whole and turned into a holy sword tattoo in front of him. The ghost energy on the third generation of Kitetsu in his hand had also disappeared, it turned into an ordinary sharp knife. And these two forces are constantly tempering Mach's body. Mach even feels that all aspects of his body are constantly improving rapidly. The most important thing is that at the moment the holy sword entered the body. Because on the holy sword, in addition to the strange power, surprisingly, there is also an extremely domineering power. Although it is very weak, it does exist. Although this entered Mach's body together with the holy sword, it is constantly repelling. What is this? Mach was very surprised, and then used his evolved energy to absorb frantically. Finally, a strand of it was successfully absorbed, and this strand directly rushed into his mind. Boom, that a terrifying force erupted from Mach, and with him as the center, it swept around. Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3 were the first to bear the brunt, and their faces turned pale. Robin even shook his body and almost fell down. Domineering color. Chapter 26. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's right, the domineering power on the holy sword is the domineering color, and the holy sword can only be possessed by those who possess the domineering color. Otherwise, it will only be controlled by the holy sword and become its puppet. It is only when Mach encounters the more powerful devil fruit ability that he can only be controlled by it. The wisp of domineering color on the holy sword was also stained by the previous king who held the holy sword and continued to fight, just like the black knife. The difference is that the black knife is wrapped in the armed color, and the holy sword is wrapped in the domineering color. Of course, the fruit ability can absorb the domineering color on the holy sword because this wisp of domineering color is ownerless, but the most important thing is that once the holy sword enters the body, immediately enter the unity of man and sword. The swordsmanship cultivation soars directly, just like Sokka in the original work. After the holy sword enters the body, he crosses two realms and enters the third realm of the swordsman, flying slash, that is, he can directly swing the sword energy out of the body. About the division of the swordsmanship realm, the first stage is the primary swordsman. When Zoro was at Koshiro's dojo and before he met Mr. 1, he could actually be considered to be at this level. Simply put, being able to pick up a sword and have sword moves can be called a primary swordsman, which is the lowest level of kendo. However, when Zoro appeared, he was at the top of this level, one step away from the second stage. The second stage swordsman, that it was when he fought with Mr. 1 of Baroque Studio that Zoro realized the iron cutting, and then he entered the second stage and became an iron-cutting swordsman. The third stage swordsman, flying slash, basically reaching the swordsman level, can do this, directly swinging out the sword energy out of the body. Zoro cultivated it after arriving at Sky Island. The fourth stage, which is the last level, is the black sword. At least you have to reach the intermediate level of armed color domineering to cultivate it. Wrap the armed color domineering on the sword to the degree of hardening. Those who can achieve armed color hardening need intermediate armed color, and truly achieve the goal of cutting everything. As long as it is a unit area, the domineering strength is inferior to yours, and you can cut it in half. And now, Mach has also reached the third stage directly. In other words, Mach is now a real swordsman. Mach took a deep breath, and then the third generation Kitetsu instantly came out of his body, and then he aimed at the sea and swung it. A 2-meter high slash shot out, and in the shocked eyes of Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3, it directly cut a gap in the sea surface. Then, Mach closed his eyes again. After carefully experiencing it, at this time, his fruit ability has entered a realm. The swordsmanship has crossed two realms and entered the realm of swordsman. The body has also undergone a qualitative change under the ghost energy of the holy sword and the third generation Kitetsu. At this moment, Mach really has enough confidence to compete with the real monsters in this world. Instead of playing dirty like he did when fighting Crocodile, then, he found that his domineering color was growing little by little. After being absorbed by him, that ray of domineering color successfully awakened his domineering color, and after the dominant Haki awakened, it actually began to devour this ray of dominant Haki with the help of the fruit ability. Mach couldn't help but burst into laughter, because he thought of a question, that is, if the dominant Haki can be like this, what about the armament Haki? Moonlight Moria, here I come. Are you ready? TSK. He was already looking forward to whether he could successfully awaken the armament haki like the dominant haki after absorbing the armament haki of the ownerless. He was even more looking forward to absorbing all the armament haki on the black sword after successfully awakening the armament haki. How strong would his armament haki be? After calming down, Mach said to Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3, Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3, go back to the original base camp and continue to do intelligence business. In addition, infiltrate the new world. I hope that when I enter the new world, you have already made some achievements in the intelligence network in the new world. The 4 people said in unison, yes. Mach added, also, don't forget to improve your strength. You are still too weak now. When your strength reaches 300 million, you will be qualified to stand in the open and become a member of my ship. Robin, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, and Mr. 3 heard this and their faces changed. Especially Mr. 1, he is a strong guy, someone is coming. Mach became extremely sharp after reaching the swordsman realm, and then winked at the 4 people. The 4 people immediately understood, after all, they can't expose their relationship with Mach now. So, the 4 people left quickly. Soon 2 tall figures came in front of Mach. The one on the left had 4 X-shaped scars, 2 on his face and 2 on his neck, split, curly beards and brown flowing hair that fell to his shoulders. The most peculiar thing was that his left eye had no pupil. The man on the right had a mohawk hairstyle, and his dark purple long hair was tied behind his head to form a bun. He had a mustache, a lavender-striped suit, a dark blue shirt underneath, and a white tie. He wore a white navy coat behind him and a samurai sword on his waist. These 2 people were so distinctive that Mach recognized them at a glance. He was Vice Admiral Doberman and Flying Squirrel. These 2 guys were the elite Vice Admirals of the Navy headquarters. He was surprised that they came together. Doberman and Flying Squirrel had obviously recognized Mach at this time, and their faces changed. Doberman said coldly, it seems that you are the one who just burst out the domineering color here. As he spoke, he put his hand on the hilt of the knife. The same was true for the Flying Squirrel on the side. I'm flattered that 2 lieutenant generals from the headquarters came together. Mach's hand was also on the hilt of the 3rd generation Kitetsu. The Flying Squirrel heard this and raised his mouth slightly. It just happened that I came to this Cook Island with Doberman to enjoy the food. But it was really unexpected to meet you. Both sides have locked onto each other, and the situation is tense. Brew. At this moment, the sound of a phone call rang on the Flying Squirrel. Huh? The Flying Squirrel looked puzzled, and Doberman was also surprised. I couldn't figure out who would call at this time. The Flying Squirrel looked at Mach, and finally chose to call the Den Mushy first. I'm the Flying Squirrel, who is this? The next second, the Den Mushy turned into a person smoking a cigar. Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel, this is Smoker. I met your men on the island, so I specifically called you. If you meet Mach, don't do it yet. Marshal Sengoku asked me to invite him to join the 7 warlords of the sea. Flying Squirrel, Doberman. This call came at the right time. The 2 of them looked at each other. Then the Flying Squirrel said, Smoker, I have never received a call from you. After that, he hung up without waiting for Smoker to answer. Chapter 27. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not good. Smoker's face changed drastically, and he turned to ask the Navy on the side, did you see Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel leave in that direction? The Navy on the side instinctively pointed in a direction. Smoker immediately turned into a puff of smoke and quickly went in that direction. Tashigi followed closely behind. I'll go. Mach was a little surprised, because Flying Squirrel's meaning was very clear. He wanted to kill him. Otherwise, it would not be possible. Mach slowly drew out the Sandai Kitetsu. Since the other party wanted him dead, he would naturally not be polite to the other party. After all, he was now very powerful. 1 against 2, he was not afraid. What's more, the 2 people in front of him were powerful figures among the vice admirals of the Navy, and it was perfect to practice with them. Among the 3 people, Doberman was the first to take action, and he also drew out a long sword. The armed color was immediately wrapped around the blade, because he understood. The guy in front of him was a natural type. He was not entangled with the armament haki, so any attack could not cause any harm to him. Then he exerted force on his legs, and Doberman shot out like a cannonball. He was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye he arrived in front of Mach, the long sword in his hand slashed at Mach fiercely, as if he wanted to cut Mach in two. Mach was not to be outdone, and also swung out the Sandai Kitetsu in his hand to meet him. Dang, neither of them had any fancy moves in this attack, but they were the most direct and the most desperate. Under the powerful recoil, Mach's body trembled, but Doberman retreated 7 or 8 steps. The corners of Mach's mouth rose involuntarily. At this moment, he could already confront the Vice Admiral of the Navy head-on and easily gain the upper hand. It was still based on his own strength. Sure enough, the body after the blessing of the two swords was no longer the same. Tisk, although Doberman was at a disadvantage, he looked unconvinced. With a fierce swing of the samurai sword in his hand, a slash burst out and rushed towards Mach. Mach stood there motionless, as if the target of the slash was not him. Whether it was Doberman or Flying Squirrel, they looked at Mach, who seemed to have given up resistance, with a puzzled look on their faces. The next moment, Doberman's slash slashed Mach fiercely. At this time, Mach was like a black hole, absorbing the slash into his body without any exposure. Doberman and Flying Squirrel were both well informed. But they were still shocked and exclaimed, "What kind of ability is this?" Not good. Rich battles gave Doberman an intuition beyond ordinary people. And his intuition told him that Mach was extremely dangerous at this time. Be alert. Sure enough, the next second, Mach swung the third-generation Kitetsu, and a slash twice as fast as his burst out. Not only that, it was even twice as fast. In the blink of an eye, he came in front of him. Fortunately, he was prepared. Seeing this, he held the samurai sword in his hand directly in front of him. Boom! Under the powerful slash twice as strong as Doberman could only barely hold on. However, the whole person kept retreating under the strong power of the slash. His feet left 2 deep drag marks on the ground. Doberman, seeing that Mach suppressed Doberman with one move, the Flying Squirrel could not stand on the side, and a worry appeared on his face. At the same time, the samurai sword in his hand swung out fiercely, and a slash that was better than Doberman's slash burst out, and the target was Mach's slash. This was an attempt to help Doberman, but how could Mach let it go? The third generation of Kitetsu in his hand was swung out again, and a slash also burst out, successfully blocked the Flying Squirrel's slash. At this time, Doberman was also at the end of his strength. He shouted loudly and burst out all his strength. He barely managed to knock Mach's slash into the sky. Then Doberman stood there panting. At this moment, the look in his eyes when he looked at Mach had completely changed. Before, when they saw the information about Mach killing Crocodile, they really thought it was as the information said. Mach took advantage of Crocodile's fear of water and took advantage of the other party's contempt and carelessness to kill Crocodile. If there was another chance, Mach would not have any chance against Crocodile, but now it seems that they were wrong. Let's not talk about other things for now, just Mach's strength in Kendo, plus the special ability just now, can compete with Crocodile. Not to mention that he is a multi-fruit ability user. Gulp, Doberman swallowed his saliva. He knew that he had hit a wall this time. Swoosh, Flying Squirrel he flashed to Doberman's side, because he also understood. 1-on-1, there is no chance. Only 2 people can fight him together. He and Doberman looked at each other. The next second, the samurai swords in their hands swung out together. 2 slashes, one vertical and one horizontal, went towards Mach. At this time, Mach put the Sandai Kitetsu into the scabbard, and then took the posture of drawing the sword to attack. Just when the 2 slashes were about to hit him, he moved. One sword-style ghost flame slash. Mach disappeared from the spot in an instant and entered the state. The 2 slashes were directly cut off. Not good. Doberman and Flying Squirrel's faces changed drastically, and their pupils shook violently. Although their observation hockey had captured Mach moving at high speed, but Mach's speed was really too fast. When Mach's figure appeared again, he was already behind Doberman and Flying Squirrel. Slowly put the third generation Kitetsu into the scabbard. Puff! A wound appeared on Doberman's chest, and blood gushed out. Then, flames were seen burning on the wound. Although the Flying Squirrel was not injured, the hand holding the samurai sword was shaking constantly. The difference in strength between the two was immediately compared. Even if the former captured Mach's figure with his observation hockey, he still couldn't dodge. The latter blocked it with the samurai in his hand. although the shaking hand has shown that, it is not easy for the flying squirrel to take this move. Mock's mouth corners raised, revealing a sneer, and murderous intent appeared in his eyes. He is not a saint. He will never be merciful to those who want to kill him. Absolute sky. Mock activated his ability and instantly absorbed all the oxygen within a radius of 100 meters. Let the area within 100 meters become a Jedi for living things. Although Doberman and the flying squirrel were still breathing, they found that it was useless. A feeling of suffocation came over them. The two looked at each other, and a look of fear flashed in their eyes. They were afraid, however, they also understood that there was no way out. Only by fighting to the death could there be a glimmer of hope. The two held their breath, their faces showed ferocious expressions, and they held samurai swords in their hands. Their auras also changed. Chapter 28. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stop. At the critical moment, Smoker rushed within 100 meters. If he found something wrong as soon as he entered, his face would change drastically. Woo. Following closely, Dashiki also rushed in, quickly covered her neck with both hands, and fell to the ground in pain. Alas. This scene naturally fell into Mock's eyes, although he asked her to teach him kendo in exchange for Suizu. But no matter what, she is also his guide in kendo. There is still some friendship. I can't kill her too. In the end, Mock still retracted his ability. Doberman and Flying Squirrel seemed to be relieved and breathed happily. Smoker and Dashiki also recovered. At this time, when the two looked at Mock, their eyes became completely different. Because they understood that at this moment, they and Mock were no longer people of the same level, especially Dashiki. However, she was very stubborn and rushed to Mock angrily. How could you kill Colonel Wild Dog? He is a naval colonel. At the end, her eyes fell on the Sandai Kitetsu in Mock's hand. Your behavior is insulting it. Mock's mouth twitched when he heard this. It has to be said that this kid is really too naive, so, he didn't indulge her and said very bluntly, so, only your navy can do whatever they want in the East China Sea. When you are talking about me Sandai Kitetsu, you should find out what kind of person Colonel Wild Dog is. Such a guy also wears justice. It's really the biggest joke in the world. What do you mean? Dashiki looked puzzled. Smoker's face changed slightly, and his eyes became complicated. He is different from Dashiki and understands many darkness in the world, but he was happy again, because in this way, Mock is not really just for a devil fruit, so he has the delusion of killing people. He has kindness in his heart. Just based on this point, he is much better than other pirates in the position of Shichibukai. Smoker took a deep puff of cigar, and then slowly exhaled. Finally, he looked at Doberman and Flying Squirrel with a warning. Marshal Sengoku has ordered that Dashiki and I invite Mock to join the Shichibukai. At the end, his eyes have turned to Mock. Are you willing? Shichibukai. Mock heard the words and showed a surprised expression on his face. Because he really didn't expect that Sengoku would play this trick, having read the original work, he naturally understood early that the Shichibukai would be lifted sooner or later. He might even be targeted and hunted down by the Navy one by one. In the end, the Shichibukai formed a group to form a new 4 emperors. If he joined the Shichibukai, could he also use this identity to win over 1 or 2 of them? Even bring them all under his command? Especially the Empress. When Mock thought of this woman, he suddenly felt. The sword in hand can be a little slower. Seeing that Mock was silent, Dashiki immediately played the emotional card. Consider the relationship. We have been together for a while, please think about it carefully. Colonel Smoker and I don't want to face you with swords one day. At this time, Mock had made up his mind, so he immediately replied, originally, I was targeting Colonel Wild Dog, not the entire Navy. Besides, there is a friendship between you and me as a professor of kendo. So I agree to join. The novel was taken from the Thrala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Good. Great. Smoker and Dashiki were both overjoyed. Doberman, Flying Squirrel, the two suddenly felt that the fight just now was not worth it. The injuries were in vain. The two looked at each other, and the atmosphere was a little awkward. How about we go? But Mock glanced at the knives in Doberman and Flying Squirrel's hands. He could feel that the knives in the hands of these two people were not ordinary items. It is definitely not inferior to the third-generation Kitetsu in his hand, especially the one in the hands of the flying squirrel. Alas! What a pity! If Smoker had come a little later, perhaps these two swords would have been his collection. Smoker took out a Den Mushi from his arms and handed it to Mach. This Den Mushi that directly connects to Martial Sengoku, all the Shichibukai have one. Mach took it, and the moment he took the Den Mushi, he officially became a member of the Shichibukai. Smoker handed over a bounty order at this time. Mach's pupils shrank. He understood that this was a token of allegiance. However, the person on this bounty order is really extraordinary. A month later, Ada exclaimed, "Captain, your talent in kendo is really it makes Ada feel inferior to him." During this month, Mach asked Ada for advice on double sword style. The progress was so fast that Ada doubted his life several times. Ada handed Hanesu to Mach. "Captain, now you are also a double sword style." This Hanesu is still. She was interrupted by Mach before she finished speaking. "This is your joining gift to the pirate group. How can you take it back? Besides, my second sword will be in my hands soon. However, we have to complete the task given by the Navy headquarters. After all, we have already sat on the position of Shichibukai, so we have to pretend." Hearing this, Ada couldn't help but chuckled. Yes, it's a bit unreasonable to delay it any further. At this time, not only did the wound on her face recover, but she also became more beautiful. Confidence returned to her again. Then he added, "After the captain has dealt with this guy, will he go to win over the strong and strengthen the pirate group?" At the end, her eyes lit up, because she understood that if she wanted to defeat Doflamingo and his gang, it would not be enough for her and the captain alone. Only more and stronger partners could unite to destroy them. Mach nodded. "A month has passed, and I think the information I want will be delivered soon. Then, I will take you to collect two powerful partners. Just here," he changed the subject, "but before that, you have to get my second famous sword first." As a swordsman, he is naturally a sword lover, so Ada's eyes lit up when he heard it. "I'm curious, which famous sword can make the captain value it so much? I won't let you down." After Mach finished speaking, he stood up and looked into the distance. The corner of his mouth rose slightly. "Finally here, these guys." Ada looked along Mach's gaze, and his face changed suddenly. The murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "These guys are finally here." Mach chuckled. Didn't he buy intelligence from the underground forces and wait here knowing they were coming? So, don't get excited. Their fate is already determined. Chapter 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ada's mouth corners could not help but slightly rise. She had been teaching the captain the double sword style for this month. During this period, the captain often fought with her, so as to quickly improve the double sword style combat experience. Therefore, in this month, it was not only the captain who improved, she also improved. After all, for her, the captain was also a very good sparring partner. However, Ichi was not a simple character. At the last moment, the body leaned back. Swish, Huazhou flashed with a cold light, leaving a wound on Ichi's neck. But it was not enough to be fatal. Even so, Ichi was scared. In the face of life and death, Ichi's whole body strength burst out in an instant. He forced Ada back, but he took a few steps back and pulled away from Ada, and this scene fell into the eyes of Yashi and Yair. The two were shocked and cried out in great worry. "Ichi, you should worry about yourselves." Mach waved the Sandai Kitetsu in his hand again, and a terrifying slash burst out again, but this time the target was Yar, iron block. This attack came too fast, and Yar had no time to dodge. He could only passively defend, and not only that. He predicted that the place where Mach's slash hit was entangled with armed color, Ice Dragon. Yashi didn't dare to let Mach continue to attack at this time, and directly gave a strong counterattack. Mach's slash hit Yar first, and Mach's mouth showed a bit of sarcasm. The 6 styles of the Navy actually appeared on a member of the slave-catching team, but the conditions for ordinary Navy to learn are very harsh. In other words, it is better to catch a beautiful woman than to fight to the death. What a irony. That's right. They are specially for the nobles and the celestial dragons to catch slaves. as long as they make the celestial dragons happy. If you want the Navy 6 styles, it's just a matter of a word from the celestial dragons. But, this guy probably doesn't know that the iron block is the #1 illusion of the pirates. Swish. Mock / directly broke through Yar's defense, leaving a wound on his chest that went through his entire body and was deep enough to see the bone. Blood spurted out. At the same time, Yoshi's ice dragon was less than 1 meter away from Mock, but Mock seemed not to see it, or as if he had no time to dodge. He let the ice dragon hit him hard. Good. Yoshi was overjoyed. She was very confident in her ability. No matter who was hit by her ice dragon, they would be frozen forever and become an ice sculpture. You have to know that her ability is at the same level as the pirate Admiral Akiji. The difference is that one can transform into an element, and the other can't. That's all. Tisk. But at this time, Mock's mouth corners raised and showed a little smile. This gave her a bad feeling. The next second, she saw a strange picture. The ice dragon, which was 7 or 8 meters long, seemed to hit the entrance of a different space when it hit Mock, and disappeared quickly. Or perhaps, Mock's body was like a different space. It directly put the whole ice dragon in it. What made her scalp tingle was that Mock's body began to change rapidly and became an ice sculpture. She could swear to heaven that it was definitely not frozen by her ice dragon. The next second, an ice dragon that was twice as big as before, jumped out from behind Mock. However, the target was not Yoshi, but Yer, who had been severely injured. If it weren't for the time difference, it would be like Yoshi's ice dragon, which passed through Mock's body and doubled in size and blasted towards Yer. Not good. Yoshi's face changed drastically, and she was even a little desperate. Because she was powerless to stop it, and Yer had only boundless fear, because he was severely injured and could only watch the ice dragon that was more than 10 meters long, it kept magnifying in his eyes. Boom! The ice dragon hit Yer fiercely, and under the powerful impact, Yer was directly knocked out. Then, the ice dragon did not disappear, but pushed Yer all the way, everywhere it passed, whether it was a tree or something else. All were frozen in an instant, and then smashed into pieces. It didn't stop until it hit the mountain under a small earthen hill 200 meters away. However, under the powerful impact, Yer was already deeply trapped in the mountain. At this time, his whole body was soft, there was blood flowing out of his eyes, mouth, and ears. From the deep wounds that could see the bones, you can even see the internal organs that have been frozen. It is obvious that he is dead and can't die anymore. She couldn't help but cry out in grief, and then hatred rushed straight to his head. She lost her usual rationality. She waved her hands and said, "Ice destroy the world." Countless ice pendants appeared out of thin air and floated above her head. Then they rained down on Mock like raindrops. No matter what it was, whether it was the ground or the trees, they would all be frozen. Soon, everything within 100 meters of Mock was frozen. That area seemed to have become a separate world, a frozen world, but, an Iceman was at ease in that world. Mock looked at Yoshi as if he was looking at a fool. Are you stupid? The ice dragon just now couldn't hurt me at all, but these ice cones can hurt me. As soon as the words fell, Mock raised his hand. Countless ice cones immediately appeared out of thin air above his head. Yoshi was completely stunned, then the ice cones like raindrops enveloped her ice shield. Seeing this, Yoshi decisively used his ability to create an extremely huge ice shield to block in front of him. The ice cones looked so tiny in this huge ice shield, how could they possibly shake it? At this moment, the ghost energy of Mock, which was fused with the strange power of the holy sword, burst out. And gathered into a Shura standing behind Mock. One sword style, Shura slash. Mock and Shura swung their swords together, and a slash that was stronger, fiercer and sharper than before burst out. Wherever they passed, they were indestructible, and a gap was cut into the ground. Yoshi's ice shield was directly split into two, and then Yoshi was cut. A huge wound pierced through Yoshi's entire body, and blood gushed out, dyeing it red. No, Ichi, who was fighting with Ada, also saw this scene and roared in despair. Ada couldn't help but sneer, "You also have feelings." It's ridiculous. When he said this, his face was full of ridicule. Then he added, "That's good. With emotions, you can deeply understand the pain of your loved ones leaving you. you can understand how painful it is for those whose loved ones have been taken away by you. As he spoke, Ada launched his strongest attack, dual blade style.